Full Court Press. This is a show that talks about college basketball of all kinds. And, well, Sarah, I don't. We're going to have a hard time trying to figure out exactly what it is we're going to talk about, if I'm being honest. Because, I mean, is there anything happening locally in college basketball? I feel like not.
It's just March, maybe the least busiest time of year for us, right?
We've just been hanging out, just trying to figure out what to do with our time. No, obviously, it is as busy as it gets and as fun as it gets on Full Court Press. We appreciate everyone watching. Along with Sarah Holland, I'm Kevin Holden. We have stuff to talk about, and I mean lots of stuff to talk about. We've got Duke, NC State, and UNC, whether you're talking men's teams or women's teams, with something going on, something to play for, something significant going on. So let's dive right into it, and we'll start with number one team in the nation, Duke, who beat NC State basically by 30 points on Monday night, winning the ACC outright. And Cameron Boozer becomes the first freshman in Division I in 30 years to pass these numbers before the conference tournament: 650 points, 300 rebounds, 100 assists. Bottom line, he's pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, when you watch him in person, too, it's like a whole different sort of animal, right? Like, he is big. He's, able to get to the basket and pull up and then also shoot three-pointers at will. And you really see why he's in contention for being the National Player of the Year, a top pick in the NBA draft, because when he's playing out there, he's unstoppable, and those numbers prove that.
Dame Sarr has become an excellent three-ball threat, and he's one of these guys that has matured as the season has gone on. Duke has two or three guys that I think started in a decent place and have ended in a fantastic place. They've progressed exactly the way Jon Scheyer wants them to.
Yeah, Isaiah Evans and Dame Sarr. And I mean, when you have key pieces that are able to contribute to the offense and not have to rely on just Cam Boozer, that's going to take you deep into the postseason. And we didn't get to see that a little bit at the beginning of the year when that offense was relied upon from Cam and solely Cam. And lately, I think Evans is one of the reasons that Duke has reached that number one spot within the past couple of weeks. And they've been dominant, not just beating opponents, but blowing them out, quite frankly. And when Dame Sarr's hot, when Isaiah Evans is hot, and Cam Boozer, I mean, this Duke team can beat anyone in the nation.
Yeah, and Jon Scheyer gets really, really happy when all those guys are hitting on all cylinders. Here's Jon Scheyer after Monday's win over NC State.
To get to win the ACC outright, 28 wins this point of the year, and just their professionalism, their approach, they've been an absolute joy to coach. And we knew NC State, Coach Wade, I mean, look, he's a really good coach, and we knew we could see some different things tonight. We put 9 guys on the floor that impact winning. And I'm proud to see the individual growth of everybody on the team, but also just how they've come together. And I think we're really connected, and what they're doing is incredible.
Okay, so on the Duke side of things, that ship is just sailing nice and smooth right into the ACC tournament. Flip sides of that game, Sarah, and the NC State, Will Wade Wolfpack, this is going to be a little bit of a rough situation for them, and probably not the way they wanted to be to hit their bad spot as we get to March. They've lost 5 of 6.
Right. It's definitely one of the worst times that you can kind of fall into a tough stretch of the season, happening late February into March. And I mean, when you think back to Monday night's game against Duke, we heard Will Wade talk after that game, and a lot of the area that the Wolfpack have been struggling in lately has been their defense. And so they decided to go to a zone defense for the first time, in the whole season's maybe played less than 60 possessions of zone defense the whole year. And Will Wade admitted that probably wasn't the right opponent to play zone defense against, but their man defense has been letting them down. And it's just when you have a combination of your defense isn't working, you rely solely on, threes, and you can't hit them as consistently as you like. Maybe having a little bit of not an identity, right? What kind of identity do you have as a team right now? And some mismatches when it comes to physicality. There just seems to be a lot more going wrong right now for NC State than going right, and especially this time of year. If it was January, maybe these wouldn't be as pressing concerns, but, we're here, and you can't have these problems at this time of the year.
Stanford comes to town Saturday, and I mean, I don't even want to use the word bubble, but at this time of year and where they are, bubble is a legitimate concern. Here is Will Wade trying to put some things in perspective, because a loss to Duke at this stage of the game is at least, I won't call it expected, but Duke's a really good basketball team, and Will Wade was readily admitting that.
The problems, having a 7-point lead at Miami, or with Miami, having the 7-point lead, 2.5 minutes at Notre Dame, like, those are the problems. Like, these guys are in a little different weight class than we are right now. We know where we got to get to. We could see that live and in person today. This is where we have to strive to kind of get up to that weight class. But the issue in the 5 out of 6 is the games that were within our control. We got to put everything we got into Stanford on Saturday. It's the biggest game of the season.
Stanford is a game that still sits a little bit with the Heels, who we'll get to in a second. But what I'm wondering is, a loss to Stanford is rough for the Wolfpack. Yeah. What about a 4-point win over Stanford? Is that good? Is that bad? What is that?
At this point, I think they're going to be happy to just get a win, end up on the winning side. I think at this point, like, does it matter how it gets done? Maybe not, because it's just get the win and then flush this part of the season down the drain, and let's kind of move on and get ready for the tournament. But for right now, if I'm NC State, I'm like, go out there and get the win, right? It's not about trying to be fancy and maybe, how many threes can we hit or all this stuff, the stat line, like, just go out and get the win and get it done. Madness.
This is officially the definition of madness. All right, and speaking of talking about UNC and their run here late in the year, 6 games ago when they lost Caleb Wilson, I think we would not have been shocked if they had the stretch that NC State is having, losing 5 of 6. They've won 5 of 6. They beat Clemson on Tuesday night. And, I mean, look, it wasn't the most comfortable win in history, but it certainly looked good, and it has made guys like Luka Bogovac, like Seth Trimble, who is already a senior leader, but it's turned these guys a little bit better. Caleb's absence has somehow helped this entire team.
That is exactly right? Like, I mean, you think about, like, when you don't have your best player to rely on, other guys have to be placed in uncomfortable situations, and that's exactly what they've had to do. You mentioned Luka, Seth, Derek Dixon, too, like a freshman. You have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, and that's perfect heading into March, right? And not everything's come easy for these guys down the stretch, and maybe that's exactly what they need to face adversity. And when you don't have your best player in the lineup, I mean, that's you're not going to face more adversity than that, right? And I mean, it's so important that they get Caleb back and healthy, but it's also, I'm curious, if he's not back before Duke, like, what kind of fight can they put up against Duke in Cameron?
And how, like, it's the most important game of the year in terms of their own feeling, right? Yeah. Because it's the one right before the tournament. It's the Battle of the Blues. It's all the emotion, and it's happening on the road. I mean, I get all of that. But they're in a position where if they win, they could be elated. If they lose by 25, they could just flush it.
Right.
And just okay, that we've clinched a double bye in the ACC tournament. Let's take a few days off and let's go from there. So I'm not saying that they wouldn't try in a game like that against Duke, but I also think they could lose by a bunch and it wouldn't matter. A little bit like Will Wade, where he was just like, well, they're a good team.
Right. I mean, my biggest thing is, like, how can this team play? I think my biggest concern right now surrounding UNC is how can they play when Henry Vassar's not on the court? Because you saw it against Clemson on Tuesday. Like, when Henry wasn't in the lineup, I think Clemson went on a 10-2 run immediately. So it's like, when you don't have Vassar on the court and Caleb, that's where things can go really south. We saw it against NC State, excuse me. So, like, if I were an opponent facing North Carolina, I'm going at Vassar, trying to get him into foul trouble early on and attacking him so that, we can get him out of the lineup off the court, because then it pretty much becomes, any team can kind of just run right over them. So, yeah, I think it's going to be interesting if they don't have Caleb against Duke for the second time. What's kind of the strategy for UNC making sure Henry stays on the court for the full game, and Duke making sure Henry comes off the court?
The less of Henry, the better it is for Duke. Yeah, it makes a ton of sense. Here is Vassar and Seth Trimble first, talking about that win against Clemson and the importance of finishing out a regular season 18-0 at home. They didn't lose a single game at home all year.
It just speaks so much volume on the way this team has been able to persevere this year. The job isn't far from finished, but all year long we've been hit with a lot of backlash about we're not this and we're not that and we can't do this. So I think it just shows how we've been able just to come together and regroup after tough losses and whatnot like that, and not only defend our home, but just take care of business in general.
Whenever we started prepping for Clemson, he was like, hey, this is for these two guys. Like, we need to send everybody out from this program by being a winner, so we got to win the last game for them at home. So I think it means a lot to everybody just being able to fight for them, get a little extra motivation to just fight extra for those two guys.
All right on to Saturday here, because honestly, we could probably do an entire show about Duke and UNC and the 2 seasons that they've had, because in the midst of all of the drama and the weirdness and injuries and the time that they played in Chapel Hill, which is coming up on 4 weeks ago, you've got 2 of the more impressive stories in all of college basketball. Everyone knows Duke with the number 1 next to their name, but UNC has built a season off of this win that they had in Chapel Hill.
I mean, it was amazing. I was there. That was my first Carolina Duke game. What a game for that to be your first matchup of the Battle of the Blues. I mean, come on. Like, that was insane. I still remember just my ears were ringing the whole night. Like, it was an atmosphere that I will never forget, and you're going to get to experience it on Saturday at Cameron, which is already, you can, during a regular season game against a non-conference opponent, you can barely hear yourself think. But yeah, I mean, it's what college basketball and what March is made for, right? Like, this is a matchup that you want to see. I would love to see it again in Charlotte. But, you know, you got 2 of the best teams in the ACC going head-to-head, and it's going to be fun.
The emotion of these 2, you know, how they feel about each other, everything else aside. I mean, right. You know, you're going for greater goals. You're going for national championships and ACC tournament championships and that sort of thing. But the idea of winning or losing that game is as important to them as anything on the schedule, which to me is, you know, it says a lot, right? It says, I mean, obviously, there are decades and decades of history. These 2 schools are so close to each other, you know, geographically, and compete for a lot of the same elite prospects year after year. Bottom line, you don't need us to tell you it's a pretty big game, but Cameron Boozer and Seth Trimble are going to tell you how big it is.
Well, obviously, we're looking forward to it. It's a game that we wish we could have back, but basketball, there's no do-overs. So you know, we haven't talked about it yet, but we're definitely excited for that game.
Just to get another win. Winning there is hard. It's a very historic venue, and they have great home court advantage. But I mean, you look at history. If there's one team that can go in there and get a win, it's North Carolina. So just to go in there and play a great game and try our best to get a win.
And what Duke has done that's really interesting is they've clinched the ACC regular season title outright. They will be the 1 seed. They will have the double bye. Obviously, there are a couple other things at play. They'd like to be the number 1 team in the country going into the ACC tournament. I don't know if that really matters, but you know, I'm sure they'd like to hang on to it. But they also have a chance to finish a regular season undefeated at home.
Carolina's the only thing in their way.
That's crazy.
Another crazy matchup, like storyline heading into this game. There's so many, and again, like you said, we could probably just talk about this for hours on end. But yeah, I mean, it's an even bigger game for that reason. Like, both teams wanting to finish with perfect records at home. UNC gets it done, but like, can UNC stop Duke? I think it's going to be really tough, especially if like Caleb's not in the lineup. Especially just the momentum that, you know, Duke's been playing with lately. And again, like I mentioned earlier in the show, they're not just winning, they're beating opponents by double-digit points every single night. It's going to be tough for the Tar Heels to, you know, be able to stop a team like that, especially at Cameron.
6:30 on Saturday will be that game, and then that's it. Everybody takes a beat and then gets ready for the ACC tournament. And we know there's not a ton of drama here. We know that Duke will have a double bye, UNC will have a double bye. NC State's still scrapping for what they can scrap for.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, that's where we are heading into it. Speaking of ACC tournaments, we're going to take a quick break. The women are they're underway in their ACC tournament, about to be underway. And all 3 of the Triangle teams get to wait until the quarterfinals to play. We're going to set up all 3 coming up after the break here on The Big Show. Stick around. Full Court Press is back along with Sarah Holland, Kevin Holden. We're say March without madness, and you can't say madness without conference tournaments. And that's the thing about it, is that the casual basketball fan appreciates the field of 68 and all the stuff that happens in the tournament. But conference tournaments in the Triangle and in the ACC are as hotly contested as I have seen anywhere at any time. And there are 3 chances in the Triangle for teams that can win in the ACC women's tournament, starting with the most obvious, the Duke women, who are the number 1 seed coming in.
And if you told me right now, like we predicted into the future that Duke doesn't win the ACC tournament, I also wouldn't be that surprised. Like you said, it's just one of those tournaments where anyone can kind of come in and compete, whether it's Louisville, whether it's North Carolina, whether, it's someone surprising in the Notre Dame. Like there's just all these things that can happen in March, and especially, at the ACC tournament. So, bring it on. Love it.
It's a Duke team that was 3-6 at one point because of the grueling early season schedule. They won 17 games in a row after that, and Carol Lawson was the coach of the year. But the first thing she did, talking about the season and the honors, was talking about her team and how they battled. They had injuries. They've been a little short on depth this year, but they still came out with the outright ACC regular season title. That's what Carol Lawson was focused on.
I'm proud of my team, how on the fly to lose 3 players to season-ending stuff. With 7 players, we're able to navigate the 18-game schedule and win the league. I think that's awesome, and I'm really proud of them for that. So there's a lot of positives to take away, and so we always, tell the truth to them. Hey, here's where we broke down, but hey, here's what you've done well, and here's what we need you to carry over into the postseason.
So Duke goes in just about the best position that you can have. But they go in on a 1-game losing streak. The UNC women have won 12 of their last 13, and they finished the regular season by beating Duke. It doesn't get any better than that entering the conference tournament.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, they're red hot going into the conference tournament. Again, that's exactly the way that you want to be at this time of the year, riding 12 wins out of your last 13 games and being able to, beat Duke at home on your senior night. Like that's an amazing accomplishment. And then it kind of puts that fire underneath yourself to get up and kind of continue that hot streak. And again, like Duke's a talented team. They're number 1 for a reason. And for North Carolina to be able to go in there and, win and, be able to be consistent at the free throw line, have some clutch threes. It's kind of telling to like you can face them in the ACC tournament and come out with a win.
And UNC is a classic example. Men and women, if we're being truthful, are classic examples of why March is really madness, this particular set of teams. And the reason I say that is they're asking Courtney Banghart after the last game against Duke, like, all right, you turn around now and get ready for the tournament. When are you headed to Duluth, Georgia? What are you going to do? And Courtney Banghart's like, I don't know. Because she, when they're playing, right? You've got the date of the first and time of the first game, but she doesn't know, like, okay, they've got to get down there and find a place to shoot, right? To find a gym to practice, whether it's, opening the floor of the actual arena or something else. Because remember, there are games going on, 2 rounds of them before they play. So she's like, I don't even know when we're leaving Chapel Hill for this.
Yeah. She also said, I don't even know where Duluth is.
Right.
Right.
I had people ask me that. I grew up not far from there. And I had people ask me, where is Duluth, Georgia? And I was like, out in the suburbs, of Atlanta. And they're like, oh, okay, never heard of it.
I've never heard of it either. So before this year,
I know they've had an arena football team there, and they've had a hockey team there in the past. So I mean, I know there's an arena that's capable of something,
right?
But I've never been there,
right?
So that should tell you a lot right there. Why don't we hear from Courtney Banghart leading into the ACC tournament? And I'm sure by the time you watch this show, she's got the schedule figured out. But here's what she has to say.
It is so hard to win one game. I mean, I know every coach says that, but I'm telling you guys, it's hard to win one game. Everybody puts resources in, everybody practices, everybody recruits, and we have found a way to win 14 of them so far. 14 is a lot, and a double bye in the ACC tournament is a lot. Especially when we have 2 upperclassmen in a uniform. I think a lot of people said, oh, it's a rebuild. We trusted our recruiting. We trusted our development. We brought in 2 key transfers, but otherwise it's our team. And these guys have proven me right. And it's remarkable. It really is.
So UNC will get their chance coming up in the quarterfinals. So who else will and did it thanks to an absolutely dominant performance in their regular season finale against Pitt? It's NC State. Wes Moore's group gets the double bye.
And they had a lot of players in that game come off their bench and be able to perform. And yeah, I mean, to have that kind of consistency and know that you have, bench players that you can rely on is great. But yeah, it's a little bit, I'm not as confident as, the Wolfpack going into this tournament as maybe North Carolina and Duke. But I mean, Wes Moore has the experience to be able to take his team, in far and deep into the ACC tournament. But it's going to be interesting to see sort of, how they are able to perform in game one.
And NC State, in my mind, flew under a lot of radars this year, and with a talented roster. I really did. I think they're one of those that in March, some people around the country be like, oh, right, NC State, they've got a good team. They've got Wes Moore. They've got some stuff together here. This is Wes Moore leading his team in to the ACC tournament.
The double bye is a double-edged sword. Again, I think if your goal is to try to win the tournament, you need that double bye. It helps a lot. But at the same time, you're going, right into the fire. When you get that double bye, you're going to be playing a really good team right off the bat. And so there's no warm-up. It's, it's on right from the beginning.
So as a 4 seed, they would very likely, I would think, play the 5 seed in the quarterfinals. And then when you start talking about the semifinals, there's a very real possibility, and we use our crystal ball a little bit here on how this tournament will come out. I think there's a very real possibility that the 4 teams that make the semifinals in the ACC tournament will include 3 from the Triangle. I think all 3 of these teams can win on Friday and play in the semis on Saturday.
It's such a great time when all the schools here, the major ACC schools here, are good, because that's just what you want to see when you're covering basketball. For us, when we get to cover these teams, it's awesome when they're all good, and same with the men's side as well. Like, you hope all of them are good because it makes our lives more fun. But yeah, I think that's a definitely real possibility for all of those teams to be playing past that round. And yeah, it's honestly anyone's game at that point. Like, Duke has kind of showed that at times, while their defense is really good, sometimes their offense can be a little bit shaky. But it's March, like you said. Who knows what's going to happen?
You could come in with your best possible team, have a hiccup, and have the whole thing get derailed.
That's what happens like almost every March, I feel like.
Right. One bad game in a conference tournament could bump down your, like NC State, for example, is a great example. NC State's men are a great example. They of any of these teams we've been talking about need a good tournament. They need that first win in the first game of the tournament to be a win, and a convincing one. Yeah. Because they still have a little something to show to the committee. I know the bracketologies have said 9 seed. Mm-hmm. Thing you don't want to do is get caught just to this side of the bubble. Right. I've been saying that for years. You get to this side of the bubble, and all of a sudden those 5 teams that win conference tournaments or do really well in conference tournaments, and all of a sudden you creep down into the bubble. No fault of your own, right? Just to other teams that become the stories of March. So ideally, NC State would love to be the story of March, but the thing that needs to happen is they need to just do well enough to get in, and then, hey, let them do what they do. Let's see if Will Wade can find some of that McNeese magic at NC State. Real quick before we go, just a quick run back on Fayetteville State. Congratulations to the Broncos. The men won the CIAA tournament championship. And look, it's a great accomplishment. It does not matter when. It does not matter where. But Fayetteville State has won 2 of these, counting this one, since the mid-'70s. 50 years. And they won, I believe it was 2022 and this one. And so I imagine they're celebrating a ton in Fayetteville.
Elated. I loved the video of them celebrating too. They were so happy.
Yes,
it was great. It was great to see.
Fayetteville State women just 1 game short as well. They almost three-peated in that conference tournament. Okay, so all of that is to set up the fun of the next several days. And by the time we come back here next week, next Tuesday, we'll come back and chat a little bit. We're setting up a whole new set of magic. It'll be the ACC men's tournament, and then obviously into Selection Sunday from there. We've got cots set up in the sports office. We'll We'll just do that if that works.
Right.
Thanks everybody for watching Full Court Press. We'll check in with you. Week 3 here for us is on the board. Week 4 coming up next week, leading into that ACC men's tournament. Thanks for watching.